because if you don't know, we've adopted 5 children. They were just the first 2. Hopefully I can get through this video. Just in case you're wondering, you can't breastfeed foster children. Like any foster care placement, you never know how long they're gonna stay. So you kind of live in fear of like getting too attached, loving too much, and getting heartbroken. And it's definitely a difficult path, but it's a much needed job because kids need homes. When they're placed out of the home, they definitely need a safe place to stay. So I just kind of tried to keep that goal in mind. Like, if anything, of course I'm gonna miss them, of course I'm gonna fall in love with them, but if anything, I'm providing a safe home for them. And I'm taking care of them, especially these twins, because they were medically fragile. They were so small at only 4 and 5 pounds that I got them from the hospital, that my main goal was just like, not only keeping them alive, but helping them to thrive. Every 45 minutes, it was a new 2-ounce bottle that I was just trying to get into each of them around the clock all day long. And you know, things took a turn health-wise for my daughter because she got pneumonia and she had to have heart surgeries. It was a lot. So not only during this time did I not know how long they were going to stay for, I was dealing with the emotions of getting attached very quickly, falling in love with these newborn babies, and I was dealing with them being medically fragile and needing so much care around the clock. It was my sole purpose to make sure that these babies thrived. Okay, Pop, meet me on the double. Hopefully I can get through this video. On top of that, I had social workers coming in and out. You know, we started visits. I think maybe a couple months in, we started visits with biological mom and with, I think there was an aunt and uncle, and then also the biological grandma, which I still have contact with. That's a whole nother story. Love her. It's difficult because the children entered care for a reason, right? Just a lot of mixed emotions. I had no control over anything. My job was solely to take care of the babies. Once we said yes to keeping them over the weekend, because first we just planned on keeping them for the weekend. You'll see in that first video. We had to get prepared. Like, I had to get more clothes, more blankets. We needed to get more bottles. We needed to figure out formula situation. I wanted to make sure that we were giving them the best formula possible because obviously I couldn't breastfeed. Just in case you're wondering, you can't breastfeed foster children. So within 48 hours, I took them to the doctor. We went over, you know, everything that went on with their birth. We went over any issues that they were having, what our goals were to make sure that they thrive. Formula was a big one. They needed to eat. They were so tiny, and because they were born early, they were a little bit malnourished, so they just needed to eat. So that was the main priority from that first doctor's visit, is to make sure they ate and they thrived and they gained weight. At the hospital, they had them on Similac NeoSure, which is made for like premature babies. Sole purpose is to gain weight. So that's a very expensive formula. Luckily, the doctor made a prescription for it, so it was actually able to be sent to my home. Every 2 weeks, I had at least 8 to 12 cans sent to my home, but that was not enough. So we had to get extra. We had to get about double that. We're going through like a can every 2 days with twins. So we needed to get more. It's very expensive. It was like $38 a can. Crazy how expensive formula can be. Please don't let that discourage you, the cost from like fostering children and thinking you may not be able to afford it, because there's many resources available. You can join the WIC program, which automatically foster children are eligible for all the way until the age of 5. So you can do formula in the beginning, and then you can transfer into like milk and cheese and bread and cereals and grains and fruits and vegetables, like all the way up until 5 years old. Along with trying to gain weight, we were constantly bringing them into the doctors. Like, in the beginning, it was every single week, and then it began to be every 2 weeks. I just felt like I was always going to the doctors, and I got tendonitis in my wrists from carrying, because these babies, they got real heavy real quick. Constantly carrying these babies with like 2 heavy car seats. If I would have known, I would have looked into lighter car seats, things that are available nowadays that there weren't 12 years ago, I would have definitely looked into a better double stroller, like a snap and go type of one. I didn't get until like a couple months in. You know, when you foster kids, you're hesitant to buy too much stuff. You're hesitant to spend like a lot of money on buying equipment to make your life easier because you just don't know how long they're gonna stay. But as soon as I knew they were gonna stay for at least 6 months, then I started looking on Facebook Marketplace for equipment that I think would help me, and the snap and go stroller, which was like a life changer. But specifically the doctors, they didn't fit. It didn't fit on the ramp. So I always had to take one out of the car, the other one out, and just like carry both of them like that. It was a lot. I felt like my daughter was always getting sick. She was crankier than my son, and she always had like some rumbling in her chest, and it just was happening so much that the doctor was like, you know what, just take her into the emergency room. I think she may have pneumonia. And I think we were 7 months old at this point when it was just like she was constantly getting sick, and we needed to figure out why she was constantly getting sick. So at one point, you know, she had so much gurgling in the chest, the pediatrician was like, you know what, just go ahead and bring her to the emergency room. I'm gonna put in a referral. They're gonna meet you there. Let's check something. And so they did some x-rays on her chest. She figured out she had pneumonia. She actually had blood that was filling up in her lungs that was causing her to be very uncomfortable and kind of like wheeze a lot. And it got to the point where she couldn't even take naps laying down. She had to take naps in the swing or me holding her upright because it was so dangerous. So at that point, they knew that the heart surgery that she got at birth did not work. So they had to do another one. So at 7 months old, she went in for another heart surgery, and it was like a PDA, a patent ductus arteriosus. I forget the name of it. I think that's what it is, but I'll go ahead and put it down below here. So that was difficult, having a infant only just turned 7 months old going in for heart surgery. And it was difficult because I was at the hospital with her, and then my husband had to take some time off and be at home with our son. It was just really, really difficult because at that point I was so stinking attached, and they were both so attached to me. So being away from my son to be with my daughter was emotional, but I wanted to be there for her. We thought it was best for me to be at the hospital to make those decisions and be with her, and my husband be at home with our son. So there were times when when she was asleep, the nurse was like, go ahead, spend time with your son. I would drive, 30 minutes home, spend like an hour or two with him, and then come back for baby girl. I think we were there for like the hospital for like 3 or 4 days. And if you've ever had a child go into surgery, whether it was your biological step or foster child or adopted child, it doesn't matter. The feelings are all the same. Like, it's scary to have your child be put under, especially at such a young age, at only 7 months old. It was a lot. It was a lot. I remember though that the nurses said that, when she woke up from surgery and they wheeled her into the recovery room, she was just like a completely different child. Like, she completely lit up from before surgery and after surgery. She just blossomed into this like happy, content baby that was like, it just changed her life. It's amazing how a surgery can change someone's life, and especially seeing how a baby changes after surgery, because they can't express their discomfort, or if they're hurting, or any of their feelings. If they feel sick, they can't express it. So to see a baby completely change, like her personality blossom into this like happy child that she wasn't really before, is a little emotional for me, because it's just like she couldn't tell me. It made me realize like how much she was really suffering before the surgery. Her biological grandmother and her biological sibling, they came to visit her at the hospital. It was like our first interaction with like a biological family member outside of that visitation room with supervisors and social workers, where we can like really bond, spend a little bit of time with her so we could just talk kind of like freely. I actually have a photo, and I won't forget that moment, because kind of takes the pressure off of that. Connect with them and build that relationship. She just texted me a couple days ago. I need to send her pictures. After that surgery, we went home. my little Vea, life of the party. She started getting healthier, and after that she started gaining weight because she was not so uncomfortable that she started eating more. And she always ate a little bit less than my son, so she wasn't growing as much. But I remember when we got home at like 7.5 months, it was just game on from there. She was gaining weight, she was healthy, she was getting stronger, she was able to like pull herself up and push up a little bit, and the tables turned for her as far as like her thriving and her growing and just gaining weight and getting so much healthier and better. Meanwhile, the entire 7-8 months before the surgery, we're doing visits off and on, and we still don't know what's gonna happen. There's a court date around that time, and they decided to give an extra 6 months. And so we did an extra 6 months, and we're like a year in, and at this point, we're just like, nurse these babies back to health. We experienced traumatic events, surgeries with them, and it's hard, and they still could go home after any court date. We just don't know. Year mark at one of the court dates when the judge decided that they were gonna need an adoptive home. And they go through all the list of all these people that could possibly be, you know, a permanent home for these kids. And we're just letting the system do their thing. We're just chilling back, taking care of the babies still, loving on them and trying to give them as much love as we can because we just never know when they're gonna leave. Also very difficult because you don't know if you're ever gonna see these babies again. Like, you could have taken care of them for the first year of their life and they could go home or go to someone else, and that person could decide, you know what, like, I don't want you to have contact with them. And that is in their right. It's very difficult. It's a lot, guys. It's a lot. At this point, a couple months later, we got word from the social worker that we were eligible to become their long-term placement, their forever home, their mom and dad, forever. That phone call was a lot. And I remember her asking me, like, do you still want to be a permanent home for them, and do you want it now? I was just like, absolutely. You don't wish it and you don't pray about it, that you are able to adopt these babies, but you wish and you pray that there is a safe, healthy, permanent option for these babies, whether it be you, whether it be a family member, whether it be a family friend. Like, that's what you wish for. I don't think it's right to wish that you can adopt babies that are not your babies in foster care. I think it's right to wish that they find a permanent, healthy home that they can thrive in and be happy and just have like a really good life with. And that just happened to be my home. My husband and I happened to be the ones that could provide that for them. And I'm happy because I do know that my husband and I wanted to make sure that they had connections with their biological family. Let's be real. Let's keep it real here. Adopting Black children into your home and making a multicultural home is not easy, and I do not take it lightly. And every single day I'm learning more and more to make, you know, our family a more inclusive and better home for all the different nationalities in my home, because we have Italian, we have Danish, we have African American, you know, we have Haitian. I think we're still working on figuring that out. And we have Japanese, and we have Brazilian, and we have Filipino. Like, we've got like an entire nation. We're constantly looking for ways on how to be inclusive and celebrate each one of those cultures. And it's a lot, but it's something I didn't think about initially, because a baby is a baby and you just fall in love with the baby, and you know, you don't think about anything else. But then as they start getting older, and as you know, you start seeing how the world perceives you and how that may affect your child, you get your butt in gear and you get going, learning and educating. We learned hair, we learned cultural differences, we learned, you know, specifically their families culture, you know, from the grandmother. And I tried to bring those, you know, and implement those into our everyday family life. It's a lot. I'll never learn enough. I'll never be able to learn enough, like, ever. And that's why I started like hair care videos, because I realized the importance of learning how to care for my girls' hair. And then I was getting questions on how I did it. And I'm like, you know what? I want to inspire other mamas that may not be doing what they're supposed to do, other adoptive and foster parents, and really appreciate this community. I'm getting off track. I know this is the story of how we adopted them. But yeah, I don't know. thought I would express that. About a year old, paperwork starts. There's lots of home visits. I had to actually get a home study done. Basically, it's like a book. No, I'm just kidding. Maybe like a 10, 12 page document on your life, how you plan on raising these kids, your philosophies and values, and your connection with your husband or your wife or your spouse. Really like a mini pamphlet booklet on your life that is presented to the judge. The judge reads it and they can rule if this is a good adoptive placement, and the judge did. And then we start the adoption process going into it. Lots of paperwork, like I said, lots of home visits. You just wait. Once that is done, your home study is approved. You just literally wait for a date. Specifically in the county where we adopted in California, there was a very long wait. So we waited quite some time and we were finally able to adopt them when they were 18 months. And it was just a very, very special day. Friends and family were there and we had this big Italian dinner, and it was just a memorable day. I can't wait to share more stories with you guys, because if you don't know, we've adopted 5 children. They were just the first 2. We went on to adopt 3 more girls from 2 different families, and stay tuned for those story times. I'm hoping to start filming their story times soon. For my family, adoption is an amazingly beautiful thing. And you know, not to overlook the struggles, the heartache, and the disconnection with the biological family, legally per se, because we do have contact with some biological family members from the twins, so they are not completely cut off, but it's still, you know, it's still a hurtful process. I have grown to learn that keeping connection is the best thing you can do for your adopted child and for the family. Imagine getting your child adopted out and not ever knowing where that child is, how they're being raised, you know, milestones or anything. And sometimes, you know, learning about milestones that you missed out on could be kind of hurtful, but I still think in the end, for the biological family and for the children, it is the best case scenario to have some type of connection. Like, I want to be able to answer any question that my child has about, you know, family members, siblings, aunts, uncles, like as much as I can. I don't ever want it to be a situation where I don't know. I always want to be able to have an answer. And if I don't know I can, you know, ring up their grandma and I can be like, what do I say? So I don't know. I feel very blessed that we have that connection, and I'm able to call her and ask her any question. And she's very open and thankful. Every time I talk to her, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for loving them and taking them in. And I'm like, of course, like, of course, I love them to death. Like, it is not, I don't feel like I'm doing them a favor. I feel like we're both doing each other a favor. You know, it's just, it's an amazing connection, and it's a connection that I will always cherish. So, okay, I think that's it for this story time. I can't wait to make more. And yeah, if you have any questions about fostering or adoption, please leave them down below. And I would love to communicate with you guys and kind of like build a community that we can be helpful for each other. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And I will see you in the next story time. Bye, guys. All right, let's go. Let's go. Let's go.